بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Tuesday after Maghrib we talk about the headlines from the life of Sahabah Ridwanullahi alayhim. And before that we were talking about the prophets and the Quran. We mentioned many prophets in the Quran, their lives, especially at the age of youth, because we are focused on this stage of life, on this phase of life, so that we extract the lessons from their lives and we follow their footsteps. They had mistakes, they had problems, they had difficulties, they had hardships. However, they continued and they succeeded. They delivered the da'wah and they did not care about the time, about numbers, the followers, the hardships. They were only focusing on their goals. I have a goal, I have a project, I'm working in that project. It doesn't matter how many person is following me. It doesn't matter. The most important thing that I'm steadfast on that way, even I'm alone on that way. أنت الجماعة ولو كنت وحدك. You are the group, you are the ummah, even if all people are against you. And today's Sahabi, we talk about one of the prominent Sahaba, who's the last one in the group of the 10 Sahaba who got the glad tidings that they're in Jannah. We talked about Al-Ashara Al-Mubashirin. He's the 10th one that we will talk about him today. And he's the narrator of the hadith that tells us that there are 10 Sahaba. Prophet ﷺ told us about them that they are in Jannah. The Sahabi is Said ibn Zaid ibn Amr ibn Nufayl. Said ibn Zaid. Remember this name. We talked about Al-Ashara Al-Mubashirin bil-Jannah. We said the 4 caliphs, Umar, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. And then what we mentioned? Abdul Rahman ibn Auf. This is 5. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. His nickname is what? Aminul Ummah. Okay, and Talha ibn Ubaidillah, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, and Zubayr ibn al-Awwam. And today's 10th one, mashallah, jazakumullah khair, is Sa'id ibn Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl. Sa'id, his father is Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl, and his father has a great story as well. Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl, he was in Mecca before the time of Ba'thah, before the time of the prophethood. And Prophet ﷺ saw him, he met with the Prophet, but the message did not come to the Prophet at that time. Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl, who's the father of Sa'id, he did not accept the idea of worshipping idols. He wasn't convinced with, worshipping idols, slaughtering animals for the sake of idols, drinking alcohol, killing the women and the daughters and so on. He was against all of these actions. And he started to look for the religion. He went to different places and he met with a scholar from the Jews. And the Jewish one, he told him about his religion, and he said to him, but to accept our religion or to be one of our religion, you have to take nasibak min al-ghadab. You have to take your portion from the anger of Allah, because we already have that. So he said, وَإِنَّمَا أَفِرُّ مِنْ غَضَبِ اللَّهِ, I escape from the anger of Allah. So he left him. And he went to Ash-Sham. While he's on his way, he found another scholar, but he was Christian. And he offered him his religion and so on. But he said to him, you're not going to accept our religion unless you take your portion from Al-Lan. That you take your portion from the curse. Because we already have that. And that's in the Quran. They have the portion of Ghadab and La'n, the anger of Allah and the curse of Allah. Because they changed the deen. They did not follow the deen. They killed the prophets. كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه لبئس ما كانوا يفعلون. Read in Surah Al-Ma'idah what they did. لقد كفر الذين قالوا إن الله هو المسيح ابن مريم وقال المسيح يا بني إسرائيل اعبدوا الله ربي وربكم إنه من يشرك بالله فقد حرم الله عليه الجنة. And the whole verses in Surah Al-Ma'idah, one of the last surahs revealed upon the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, and see how Al-Quran is talking about Jews and Christians and how they changed in their religion and they did not follow the teachings of their religions. That's why they deserved that curse and that anger of Allah Azza wa Jal. So Zayd ibn Amr, he said, no, I'm not going to follow that. So do you know what is the best thing I should follow? They said, the only thing that you can follow it, which is not deviated, which is not changed, al-Hanifiyya. Al-Hanifiyya, the way which is not, curved. الطريق المائل عن الباطل. يعني there is no any kinds of nullifiers on this way. وهذا الدين غير موجود. It's not found anymore. It's دين Ibrahim, the religion of Ibrahim, and the whole prophets. But it's not found anymore. There are no dua callers and representatives or scholars for that religion anymore. So he said, he left the man and he said, Allahumma inni ushhiduk, O Allah, I make a witness that I am on al-Hanifiyya, which is the religion of Ibrahim. وَمَاتَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. That he said, Ya Allah, I'm on this way of Ibrahim, and he died after that. يقول النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام about Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl, who was before Islam. But because he was looking for the religion, he was looking for the truth, and Allah guided him to die on the religion of Ibrahim. He accepts the idea or the principle and the belief of one God, and he doesn't accept any deviations in the religion. Yarhamkumullah. So Prophet ﷺ said, يُبْعَثُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أُمَّةً وَحْدًا. Ummah, like a big community. A big community like the US community, like the Arab community, like the European community. He would be sent on the day of judgment equal to all of those, just because he accepted the belief of monotheism. He did not change in the religion. He did not accept to bow in front of any sanam, any idol. He did not accept to slaughter to any idol. He accepted the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal alone, which was the belief of Ibrahim. And because he was before the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he wasn't, on the religion of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, on his shara'. But if he was alive at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he would follow him. But subhanallah, his son did not commit any mistake in following the Prophet ﷺ. He wasn't hesitant to follow the Prophet ﷺ. His son, Said ibn Zaid, he followed the Prophet and he believed in him. And this is, the beauty of having a good role model. As parents, teachers, imams, good, or managers or leaders in the community, we have to do our best to show the role model, to show the best of us. So if I die, if I travel one day, my son, people behind me, they find something they follow. They find principles. They find monotheism. They find guidance. They find the good teachings, the good morals. But if I do something wrong, and I continue to do something like this, and I'm not practicing Islam, do not expect that my offspring will be the best. Unless for some minor cases. And I had a just phone call from one of the families that they wanted to have an appointment because they want me to discuss Islam with their son. And I asked them, do you practice Islam? They said, no, we are not practiced Muslims. So I said to myself, this is the main problem. Now we discuss Islam with him, to be a Muslim or non-Muslim, to accept Islam or not. And his family is Muslim. They're called Muslims. And she says, I'm a Muslim. But they're not practicing Islam. So do not expect, especially in communities like this, in Western communities, which evil is doubled. It's much greater than Muslim countries, and the Muslim countries now they follow this. But subhanallah, at the end the evil is evil. We have to do our best. I have to work on myself. Do my best with Quran, with Salah, with Ibad, with Dua. At the end, Allah guides whomever He wants, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and wishes. He could be an unbeliever, but you did your best. You did your job. And Allah is not going to blame you. Allah is not going to blame Nuh regarding his son. His son was kafir. But Nuh did his best with him. He said, Ya bunayya arkam ma'ana. To the last point, he's calling his son. And after he survived, Rabbi, inna bni min ahli. He said, wa ahlak, take your family with you. And my son is one of my family. So he still talking regarding his son. He still wants his son. But Allah said, no, he's not one of your family because now he's an unbeliever. He's an enemy of your religion. So Allah is not going to blame Nuh regarding his son because Nuh, he did his best. So we have to do our best as well in every environment. One of the Imams, he was talking that there was a very old copy of the Quran. It was written 100 years ago. And he got this copy of the Quran from France. An Imam in one of the masajid in France, he got this copy from one of the youth. He was the grandson of the writer of that copy of the Quran. What happened? It was written in the Moroccan style of writing. And that Moroccan writer of the Quran, he traveled to France 100 years ago. And his offspring, all of them after that, he died, and all of them became atheists. So the grandson, he says, I was looking in cupboard and closet and boxes in our house. So I found that thing, and I think it belongs to Muslims. So I brought it to you, the Imam, and the Imam gave it to one of the Kuwaiti Imams. It's in Kuwait right now. So he was guided, and he was Muslim, and he was writing Al-Quran. And nobody can, not normal people can write Al-Quran. He has to be a scholar to write Al-Quran, to know where to stop, where to start, and it's a knowledge. To write Al-Quran is not something easy. So he was knowledgeable. He was a scholar. And his offspring, they were atheists. Subhanallah. On the other side, you find lineage of family, all of them non-believers, kafir, atheists. And you find their sons after that, they're Muslims. Not only that, they go to Medina, Mecca, Egypt, any place in the world they study, they become imam. Now they're leading the prayer and khutbah and lectures in US. And they're prominent imams. And their father and forefathers are non-Muslims. And this is the meaning of يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ. That Allah brings out life and the person, a live person, from the dead one. And he does the opposite as well. That from the alive one, he brings out the dead one. So the guidance is in the hand of Allah. But we have to work on that. And we have to follow the necessary tools to achieve and to get the guidance of Allah Azza wa Jal. Said ibn Zaid, he was working on that. And he was struggling. يقول لو رأيتني وقد قيدني عمر رضي الله عنه وأخته على الإسلام. If you saw me at that time, and he married the sister of Umar رضي الله عنه, Fatima. So he married Fatima, and both of them, they became Muslims. At the beginning of Islam, Umar was torturing them, punishing them, because they're Muslims. And he's tying them. And he's, punishing them every day. Why? Because they became Muslims. And now Umar, after that, he became Muslim. وَأَعَزَّهُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ بِالْإِسْلام وَأَعَزَّ الْإِسْلام بِعُمَرٍ. يقول ابن مسعود ما زلنا أذلة حتى أعزنا الله بعمر. We were weak till Umar became a Muslim, so we became strong. We became strong because Umar joined Islam and he became Muslims. Said ibn Zaid, he was receiving the punishments and the torture of his brother-in-law because he became Muslim, and he did not give up. And he was working on himself to follow the way of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He doesn't think about positions, he doesn't think about dunya, he doesn't think about being a ruler or something like this. He never thought about something like this. That's why you don't hear about Said ibn Zayd. That's too much. So many people, they don't know who's Said ibn Zayd ibn Amr. We only know those al-ashara al-mubashirin, but who's the 10th one? We don't know him. And even he's not one of a shura who became after Umar, the shura, the figures or the people who became in the trust after Umar to be the leaders or the rulers of Muslims. He wasn't one of them. And Umar did not choose him because he was his brother-in-law. And Umar, any of my families, I'm not going to bring you. My son, Abdullah ibn Umar, one of the prominent Sahabah, he didn't choose him to be one of the Ashura members. And Sa'id ibn Zayd, one of the prominent Sahaba, one of the early people who became Muslims. and accepted Islam, and he fought with the Prophet ﷺ in battle of Badr and in battle of Uhud and all the battles with Prophet ﷺ, and he was supporting the Prophet ﷺ. However, Umar did not choose him to be one of the Shura members. Why? Because it's my family. So people will talk about me, and they will say he's choosing his family to be rulers, like Rawafid, what they do today. Those transgressors from the Shiites, their claims, when they claim that Umar is so and so, and they insult Umar, insult Abu Bakr, and insult the Sahaba, Al-Ashar al-Mubashirin, they insult all of them except for Ali radiallahu anhu. Yani Prophet ﷺ said that those people are in Jannah and those people, they insult them. What religion is this? This is not accepted at all. Allah said, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ. Those who give the pledge to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ under that tree in Sulh al-Hudaybiyah before they come into Mecca on the 6th year after Hijrah, Allah said, Allah is satisfied with them and those people insult them. How is that? Now we accuse Quran with lies. If we do something like this, so this is not something accepted. Said ibn Zaid كان مستجاب الدعوة. One of his virtues that his dua was accepted. Whenever he makes dua, his dua is accepted. And there is a book is called Mustajabi ad-Da'wa. Scholars authored on people and companions and the scholars who used to make dua, and their dua is accepted directly. And we mentioned Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas last time when people sued him to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu. Sa'id, he got this as well. He was mustajab al-da'wah. And you should put this in front of you. The idea of istijabat al-da'wah, acceptance of our dua and supplication, because we need it nowadays. We make dua for Gaza, we make dua for all of Palestine, we make dua for Syria, make dua for Sudan, Yemen, Misr, Aswan, any dua for any Muslim country. And we make dua for ourselves, the deceased and the alive, the sick people, for our children to be guided, for our wives and everyone. We make dua even for ourselves. But where is the acceptance of dua? We should look for this, the elements of accepting the dua. And Allah was accepting their dua because they have something between them and Allah, which is called sir. And تَجْعَلَ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ sir. You have a secret, something nobody knows except for you. The only one who knows this secret is Allah. Could be qiyam layl, that nobody sees you while you're making qiyam. Could be siyam, nobody knows that you're making siyam. Could be sadaqah, that nobody knows that you're making this sadaqah. That you're taking care of this orphan, that you're supporting this brother or this sister or that family, and you're doing this. Some people, they build masajid from the beginning to the end, and nobody knows anything about them. You know, there is a secret between them and Allah. The other thing, which is أن تكون حلال، أن يكون رزقك حلال. Your provision is halal, is purely halal, not mixed with any types of riba, with any kinds of haram, with no cheating in it, no deceiving in it. As Prophet ﷺ, ذكر الرجل أشعث أغبر يمد يده إلى السماء. He's traveling and he's in need of dua. You see him, you see that man, mashallah, should be accepted in his dua. But يمد يده إلى السماء يقول يا رب يا رب ومطعمه حرام. He's eating from haram. ومشربه حرام. What he drinks is from haram because the money is haram. وغذي بالحرام. Anything comes to his stomach is haram, because all of the sources of his provision is haram. وَغُذِّيَ بِالْحَرَامِ وَمَلْبَسُهُ حَرَامٌ. Even his clothes is haram. He's deceiving to take anything, to cheat anyone. فَأَنَّا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. For that person, how it could be possible for him for dua to be accepted? He's not going to be accepted at all. So Sa'id ibn Zayd, he was one of those people, his dua was accepted. And one day there was a lady, she sued him to Marwan ibn al-Hakam, the ruler of Medina at that time. And Marwan ibn al-Hakam, who wasn't Sahabi, he was Tabi'i, but he was a ruler. And under him was the Sahabi. So the Tabi'i, the successor, is lesser in virtue than the Sahabi. However, he's the ruler, so I accept, why not? قد يكون المفضول في مكانة أعلى من الفاضل. يعني there could be many حفاظ amongst you. Many حفاظ reading the Quran better than me, and I'm the leader. That does not mean I'm better than you. That means that's my position, that's my job, and so on. And this is in many places. You could find the leader or the imam or the president, whatever. it is not necessary to be the best one. But Allah chose him for that position, and we ask Allah for him the guidance and so on. Marwan ibn al-Hakam was the ruler and he was a successor. Tabi'i. Under him was Abu Hurairah. Under him was Abdullah ibn Umar. Under him was Anas ibn Malik. Under him was Sa'id ibn Zaid ibn Amr ibn. So many companions, they were under the rulership of Marwan ibn al-Hakam, who's a successor. So, I'm better than that one. I have to fight for this position. They didn't fight for the position. They didn't fight for it. They were struggling to get the satisfaction of Allah. That's my goal. It doesn't matter to be imam, to be ma'moom. It doesn't matter. I have to establish salah as it is. And if they do something wrong, I tell them, hey, this is something wrong. And they give the nasiha to the imams. And they accept it. And they look for the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal. So Marwan ibn Hakam, what happened? He called for Sa'id ibn Zaid, and for that lady, what happened? She said, Sa'id, he took my land. That was my land, and Sa'id took over it, and he's controlling this land, and it doesn't belong to him. Sa'id, how is that? Can never happen. And he said, وَكَيْفَ أَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ وَقَدْ سَمِعْتُ مَا قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. How can I do something like this? And I heard what Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام said. فقال له مروان وماذا قال النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام؟ قال له سعيد قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من أخذ شبرا من الأرض طوقه يوم القيامة 7 أراضين. Anyone assumes or consumes a span of the land, just a span, that it belongs to him and it does not belong to him, and he's oppressing the other one to take this span of the land. Anyone makes something like this, it will come to him in the day of judgment, this span, like 7 earths of bad deeds that Allah will ask him about that great thing, and he will be in hell just because of the span of the land. The oppression, this kind of oppression is not accepted. And how can I do something like this? And because he felt that I shouldn't be insulted with that, and I shouldn't face that kind of dhulm, he made the dua at this point against the woman. فقال اللهم إن كانت كاذبة فيما قالت فأعمي بصرها أو فعمي بصرها وأمتها في أرضها. Oh Allah, if she is lying, make her blind and cause her to die in her land. She lived till she lost her sight, and while she was walking in her land, she fell in a hole and she died in her land because of dua of Sa'id ibn Zayd. Subhanallah. Dua accepted, dua al-mazloom. We're talking about dua al-mazloom. So many oppressed people in the world. So we just need the dua. Just make the dua. Depend on the dua. Rely on Allah Azza wa Jalla. And some would say, Ya akhi, this is dhulm. Why? How could he say something like this about that lady? And it's not dhulm. He was receiving that oppression, and he did not ask Allah to send her to hell. He asked Allah to take the revenge from her in the dunya. But in the hereafter, could be one of the people of the Jannah. But in the dunya, I'm oppressed. And that could happen. Allah said, لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم. قال العلماء من ذلك دعاء المظلوم على الظالم. Part of this, that Allah doesn't like those who talk, loudly or openly in an evil way about others, except for those who were oppressed. If you are oppressed, it is okay to make the dua, because Prophet ﷺ, he said, دعوة المظلوم ليس بينها وبين الله حجاب. And this is something in your heart, that you receive this kind of oppression. So when you do it, Allah accepts the dua. Allah accepts the dua because of barakat al-Quran, the good deeds. You increase with Quran, you understand the Quran, you make qiyam al-layl with Quran, you stay more with the Quran, you apply the teachings of the Quran, you get the acceptance of the dua. You have the halal way, and you rely on Allah Azza wa Jal, you get the acceptance of the dua. And I mentioned this regarding مسألة استجابة الدعاء والقرآن, acceptance of the dua, and its relationship between it and Al-Quran. Sheikh Abdul Rashid Ali Sufi, تعرفونه. Sheikh Abdul Rashid Ali Sufi, one of the prominent قارئ in the Muslim world. Sheikh, he had some problems when he was a kid. He was seeing like jinn and so on. He was unable to sleep for so many days. And he memorized the Quran, but he wasn't that hafiz and that alim of today of Al-Quran and Al-Qira'at. So he tried so many ways to get rid of these dreams and the bad dreams and so on, but nothing succeeded. So he decided between him and himself, and he was like between 13 and 16 years old, and he was hafiz of Al-Quran. He said, okay, I have Al-Quran, why don't I use Al-Quran and I ask Allah to give me shifa because of this Quran. I use it as ruqyah and I ask Allah to accept it from me. You know what he did? He prayed Isha and he said, I stayed in my place till Fajr, reading the Quran from the beginning of Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, finishing Al-Fatiha and then starting Alif Lam Mim Al-Baqarah to Surah An-Nas, all of it. And he didn't leave his place, sitting like you, from the beginning to the end. After Isha till Salat Al-Fajr. He finished the Quran. And after he finished, he said, Ya Allah, give me shifa because of this Quran. He said, فَنُمْتُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ نَوْمَةَ الْعَرُوسِ. It was the best night in my life to sleep after that. And he was suffering for so many days. But Allah accepted his dua when he read the Quran. We need to read the Quran, we need to stick to the Quran, we need to stick to the teachings of the Quran, teachings of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, follow the halal things so that Allah Azza wa Jal accepts our dua. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to guide us all. Allahumma hdina wa hdi bina waj'alna sababan liman ihtada waj'alna hudatan muhtadin. Allahumma khudh binawasina ilayk akhdh al-kirami alayk. Allahumma a'inna ala dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik. اللهم أنجي إخواننا في فلسطين، اللهم أنجي إخواننا في غزة يا رب العالمين. اللهم اكشف عنهم الضر، اللهم ارفع عنهم البأس، اللهم ارفع عنهم البلاء، اللهم ارفع عنهم الحصار، اللهم ارفع عنهم الجوع، اللهم ارفع عنهم القتل، اللهم ارفع عنهم الجوع وارفع عنهم القتل. اللهم إنهم حفاة فاحملهم، عراة فاكسهم، جياع فأشبعهم، مرضى فداوهم، تقبل من مات منهم في الشهداء. اللهم عليك بعدوك وعدوهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك. اللهم أحصهم عددا وقتلهم بددا ولا تبق منهم أحدا. ربنا إننا مغلوبون فانتصر. اللهم وحد صفوف المسلمين واجمع شملهم في كل مكان. اللهم وحد صفوف المسلمين واجمع شملهم في كل مكان، واحقن دماء المسلمين في كل مكان، وردنا إلى دينك مردا جميلا ننصر به الدين ونرفع به راية الحق يا رب العالمين. اللهم تب علينا لنتوب. ربنا اغفر الذنوب. وصل اللهم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، وجزاكم الله خيرا.